Hello, and welcome to another episode of Gut Punch Satan. Today we're going to talk about the saying, don't judge a book by its cover. Hello, I'm Chaplain Gina, and this is another episode of Gut Punch Satan. Don't judge a book by its cover. We've all heard it, and yet we've all managed to do it. Every one of us. If you think that you haven't, I urge you to think again, because it is hard sometimes. It is hard sometimes to look past someone's appearance, especially if it's in stark contrast to your own appearance. I mean, it is true that a visual is the first impression we have of someone. That's our first impression. We can't get past that. We see them first with our eyes before we speak to them. That's just a fact. However, I am talking today about people that are being excluded based on that appearance. Excluded from where? Excluded from church. Now, this may not surprise you, and honestly, it doesn't really surprise me either, because I know how some churches can be. But whether or not it surprises you is neither here nor there. It should still make you very, very sad. It makes me very, very sad that based on petty, superficial things like tattoos or piercings or hair color, synthetic hair color, hairstyle, clothing, that things like that could be the reason why someone is being excluded from church or avoided when it comes to spreading the good news. Like if you see someone and you think, oh, there's no way they're going to receive this, how do you know? You don't know that just by looking at them. There's no way. And it doesn't even have to be appearance. It could be things that you've heard about them, like maybe someone has been divorced multiple times, or lost custody of their children, or had a drug or alcohol issue. People are being excluded from church for these reasons. Oh my gosh. First of all, if someone is suffering in those ways, oh, the best place for them is church. They should be welcomed into church. They should be loved and made to feel like they belong so that they can be fed and go out and make better choices and find better solutions. These are exactly the kind of people that we need to have in church. Jesus would never, ever want anyone excluded from church for any reason, let alone these petty, superficial reasons. And we have a perfect example of that when we see Jesus talking to the Samaritan woman at the well. Now, historically, the Jewish population and the Samaritan population did not get along. And it was almost entirely based on religious practices and territory. So basically religion and politics, same as now. So nothing's changed. History repeats itself. But Jesus went out of his way to speak to this woman, to let her know who he was and why he was there. He wanted her to be aware of the good news. Now, if you haven't read this, you don't know what I'm talking about, it'll be linked below so you can read it. I highly recommend you do. And pay special attention to the fact that she wasn't even on his way. Like I said, he went out of his way, and he made sure that this wisdom was considered biblical canon, that it made it into the final cut, because it's a very important example of how we're meant to behave. I've spoken before about how the most beautiful gardens are full of flowers that are all different shapes and sizes and colors, Well, that's the same with fashion, all right? We all have different ways that we feel confident. We all have different fashion sense. Pardon me. Different things that make us feel like we're letting people know who we are. And we're not always going to agree with everyone's choices, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, especially in church, especially in church. Everyone should be welcome at church. So please, if you go to a church where you know people don't feel welcome, speak to your elders, speak to your pastor, let them know that's what you're hearing. And if they don't care, find another church. Go somewhere where they do care, where they do want everyone to feel welcome. Jesus said, go out and make disciples of all nations. He also said, love your neighbor as yourself. Your neighbor is not just a person that lives in the house next to you. It's everyone. Every single person that doesn't live in your house is your neighbor. And that nation could be represented not just by cultural nations or other countries. Sorry again. It could simply be culture. A different culture right here in your own area. You know, everybody groups together in certain cultures, like-minded thinking. That becomes a culture. So maybe it's a culture you don't necessarily agree with, but those people were still created by God in his image, and Jesus still expects them to be treated with love and kindness, and always to be welcomed in his house of worship. So if your house of worship is truly worshiping Jesus, they'll want everyone to feel welcome. If they don't, well, that makes me wonder what they're worshiping then. That should make you wonder too. So that is today's message. I hope it meant something to you. And like it, subscribe to it, all that jazz, and I will see you next time. Bye.